You know, I'm a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, getting into it.
Yeah. And when they announced Tales of the Jedi, which they didn't announce that long ago. Like this was a project that was kept under wraps up until like, I don't know, 3 months ago. It was kind of like, hey, this is coming.
To get canceled like all the other ones.
Exactly. It was like, hey, this is coming. And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, it's here. And we're like, oh, geez, shit. All right. And from the second it was announced, I was like, ooh, this is, I'm all over this. I was really excited about it. Because I am one of those, I mean, there's all kinds of different Star Wars fans, but I am one of those Star Wars fans where one of the things that I love the most about Star Wars is the Force and the Jedi and lightsabers. And, you know, like I'm basically, when it comes to Star Wars, I'm a 7-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Like,
it's what differentiates Star Wars from things like Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, and Star Trek and Firefly and stuff like that. It's like it is this unique sci-fi crazy thing, the religion of the Jedi and stuff like that.
You got the sci-fi, but then with the Force and the Jedi and the Sith, it's a sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah, there's something magic about it.
Sword and sorcery magic to it too.
Yeah. And so I was like, this is right up my alley because we got the Obi-Wan series and there were definitely some highlights in that sort of fed that thirst of mine. But you know, when you're mostly dealing with shows like Mandalorian, which we've got some Force and some Jedi and stuff like that in there for sure. And then Andor and stuff like that. And these are they're not shows that are Jedi and Force centric. And so I was like, I'm really looking forward to something that just like really jumps in and like, gobbles up. That's one of the saving graces for me about the prequel trilogy is that it is so Jedi centric.
It's Force Jedi heavy.
Yeah. And so I was so excited about this show. So excited about this show. And I'm going to show my hand right off the bat. This was next to Book of Boba Fett. I'm not going to say this is the worst thing we've gotten from Star Wars in a while, but this is the most disappointed compared to my expectations. This show for me
was
the biggest, like, disorganized, should have been something other than what it was, misbranded mess that I've seen from Star Wars.
Really?
A very
you disliked
long time.
It that much?
Not even that I disliked it that much. I just have that many issues with it, which we'll get into. But before we do that, I must say, hello and welcome to the Movie Men Podcast.
Yeah, the B team.
That's Carl.
And this is Brady.
And very confusingly, this is Brady, which means I'm once again not sure who the hell I am.
Are you? This is the second time you said that. Are you alluding to I should change my this to a that?
No. I at this point, no. The brand has been set. So at this point, if you were to change it, I think that would screw me up.
Things can change. Things that don't change die.
Yeah. Well. I'll leave that up to you. I don't want you to make any changes because of me.
I'll slip it in one day and see if you notice.
Yeah. Oh, I'll notice because it'll be the one day that I don't have an identity crisis. So a little while back, we're late to the game. And we're also doing something a little, we're doing a series. We're doing a series with 6 episodes in it. But because they're only 15-minute episodes, we kind of decided, well, instead of doing a podcast episode for each one of these 15-minute episodes, let's just, and also it was dropped all at once, right? So it wasn't like a week to week
pretty quick
kind of thing. Yeah, we're like, well, we'll binge it in an afternoon, and then when we get a chance to sit down and talk about it, we'll sit down and talk about it. So that's what we're doing. We're going to talk about Star Wars, the Tales of the Jedi, the mistitled Tales of the Jedi, in my opinion. And yeah, so it's been about 2 weeks since I've watched this now, so I'm relying a little bit on my notes, but going over my notes has also done a great, like, it's all kind of come back to me. So I'm not flying without my targeting system.
Yeah, I made some pretty detailed notes for a few of the episodes.
So I think we should go episode to episode. I think is the best kind of way to.
So it's 6 episodes, but it's really only 2 storylines following 2 different characters, 3 episodes each.
Right. Okay. Well,
I feel like we should follow one character through.
All right. Let's start with Ahsoka.
Okay.
Because she's
episode
subject
1.
of episode 1. Episode 1, I don't have a lot to say other than I don't care. Like they gave me 15 minutes of something, and maybe that's, you know what? Maybe that's because I'm only now kind of working through the Clone Wars series, and so I don't have that like deep-seated love for Ahsoka yet that other people have, and maybe will never come for me, but maybe it will.
Well, I think you need.
But I was just like, I don't give a shit. I don't like. This is a story. It's not even really a story about Ahsoka, kind of, because it's like she's not actually. It's even like she doesn't have her personality yet. She's a baby.
Like a pre-origin.
Yeah, it's like
the origins of her birth.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, would you
revelation that she's a Force user.
And I think the only reason why this maybe works for people, or why they were like, hey, let's do this, is because it's Ahsoka, and there's like that they're trying to capitalize on that sweet spot. But if I came to you tomorrow and I was like, I have a great idea for a 15-minute Star Wars short, it's 15 minutes on Mace Windu in diapers. And like how he discovers that he's Force sensitive, and you would maybe be a good friend and humor me a little bit and be like, oh yeah, that could be cool. Yeah, but ultimately, ultimately you'd be thinking like, that's the worst idea I've ever heard in my life, and so nobody cares.
Hang on, we got whoa. Let's just back the truck up a second and kind of real world timeline Ahsoka's story.
Okay,
so Ahsoka was first introduced in the animated Clone Wars movie, put out, directed by.
Threw up in my mouth a little.
Yeah, it's not a great movie. Ahsoka is not a fun character in the film. She's pretty friggin' annoying. It was directed by, oh my goodness, his name escaped me, Dave Filoni.
I think the thing about the movie is
it wasn't a great foray into
if you treat it as an hour and a half long episode of Clone Wars, which really is all it is.
Yeah, it's an introduction to the TV show. Really.
Then it's not total garbage. It's like, okay, this is just like a longer version of. However, this thing got a theatrical release.
It did. Yeah,
Had I gone to see
it really
this
is.
thing,
What do they call the first episode of a TV show before a pilot? It's like the pilot for the TV show that for some reason got a theatrical release
and is an hour and a half long. Like having sat and watched it on Disney Plus. Right. Yeah. So first I watched. So the order this happened was I watched the first episode of Clone Wars. Yeah. And I was like, okay, this is cool. And then I was like, I kind of thought to myself, I was like, oh, wait a second.
You're missing something.
Is it important to see the movie first? And I started Googling it. And ultimately what I discovered was you're not missing much. Like, you're not missing a lot of backstory that's not
really
going to just make sense. And there was even one that said kind of like, I was about to read this section that was like, ultimately, these are the 2 things that you kind of want to know.
What were the 2 things that they said?
I didn't end up reading it, but I assumed the first sentence began just talking about Ahsoka. Like, it was kind of like
I would
Anakin has a Padawan.
If somebody doesn't want to watch it but wants to watch the TV show, like, I would recommend skipping the movie and just jumping into the TV show. And all you need to know from the movie is Ahsoka is Anakin's Padawan. Anakin doesn't really want her as a Padawan. By the end of the movie, they kind of come to this rough relationship where she's excited to have a master. And Anakin kind of resolves that, okay, you're rough around the edges. You might not work out, but under me, maybe I can make you work.
Yeah.
So he kind of resolves to train her.
Yeah.
And
so the only reason I watched it, the only reason I watched it ultimately is because like I didn't want to, and everything I was reading was saying don't do it. And
I've watched it recently too with my daughter, and it was a bitter taste.
Yeah, literally the only reason I watched it is because like my OCD completionist took over,
right?
Which is the same thing that like when I first started playing the Assassin's Creed series, it was when I think it was just before Assassin's Creed 3 came out, which was actually the fifth game. But I was like, okay, well, so I think the newest one out at that point was Assassin's Creed Revelations. But instead of just getting that and playing whatever the newest Assassin's Creed was, I went on eBay and started finding like $10 or $15 copies of all the old ones and had to. It's the same reason I've told people, I was like, I have not, and I will never play Final Fantasy because we're at like Final Fantasy 37 right. And I just don't have the means of going back and getting caught up. It's not possible.
Yeah, it's kind of like why jumping into Doctor Who right now seems overwhelming.
I'm like, if I'm going to do... Yeah, I've had that thought process and discussion with people. I'm like, okay, well, if we ever do attempt to get into Doctor Who, we got to go back to like the 60s first because I can't do it. I can't just jump in.
So anyway, Ahsoka. Her introduction is in that bad film, but then she plays a key role in the TV show, the Clone Wars TV show, all the way through to the end of the TV show. And she actually, the further into the show, the further along the show goes, the more important she has and the more important storylines she has. And she's pretty pivotal in a lot of major storylines in that show. And you actually, so as one who's watched all of it, you go from disliking her because she's a badly written, annoying character to to this loving her because she's amazing. And I feel like, I wonder if the reason you might have a distaste and you don't like these show episodes in this little micro series or whatever you want to call it, maybe is because you haven't gone through that journey yet.
So, but here's a question. Here's a fundamental question then. If you're... so this is an issue that I have with the naming of this show. Tales of the Jedi. They should have called this show Dooku and Ahsoka or something like... Tales of the Jedi implies... When I saw Tales of the Jedi as a title and the synopsis that it was going to be, 15 or 6 15-minute little episodes that are kind of like elsewhere stories about the, Jedi, sort of some behind the scenes adventures they went on. I was like, oh, this is badass, because I saw in the trailer for it, they showed us some Ahsoka stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. They showed us some young Dooku and young Qui-Gon Jinn stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I kind of figured maybe they were just teasing the first 2 episodes for us.
Right.
And that I was going to get like an elsewhere Luke story, like a between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens Luke story, and maybe I was going to get.
It sounds like what you were
early
hoping
Yoda
for. Story.
It
sounds like what you were hoping for was the Clone Wars animated series. On Disney Plus, they label it it's under the vintage Star Wars Vintage Collection. And they call it the Clone Wars 2D micro series.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that
one? I was aware of it when it was on TV at the time. And I think the animation style just didn't interest me at all. And so I never watched it. It had a very
Samurai Jack kind of style.
Which was another show
it was
I didn't
amazing.
watch.
I really, really, really like it. It answers some really fundamental questions and also some questions that you're just kind of like, not that aren't fundamental, but they kind of or give you a neat answer to.
But it also isn't canon.
Like they show why Anakin's all got a scar over his eye, and they answer the question of why does Dooku seem like he sucks, or not Dooku, sorry. Why does General Grievous seem like he sucks and he's coughing up a lung the whole time?
Right.
Well, it answers that question, that series.
Yeah, but it's not.
It's really good. I highly recommend people watch it. It's a lot of fun, and like you're saying, it dives in, like each episode focuses on a different aspect or story or character, and it focuses on several different Jedi that you don't get a big stories for, and it's really cool. It sounds like that's what you were hoping for from this.
Well, I think it's not even necessarily hoping, it's just kind of what I was expecting based on the title.
Right.
This isn't the Tales of the Jedi. This is the tales of one Jedi, and one Jedi who is in the process of converting, right? It's not the tales of the Jedi.
Yeah, technically, it's a story of one Jedi who falls to the dark side and one Jedi who leaves the Order completely and is no longer a Jedi.
Yeah. And so I'm like,
is it really Tales of Jedi? So I'll admit, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be either. Like, I'm in the same boat as you. I watched it and I was like, this isn't what I was expecting.
Yeah,
I liked it. Showing my hand, I thought it was great, because I liked the short form storytelling. It kind of felt similar to the Clone Wars micro series that I just mentioned. In that vein, answered some fundamental questions, answered some questions that we just weren't so sure about, or then didn't really necessarily need answers for.
I guess the reason the Ahsoka thing bothers me though is because of the title, because it's not just like I'm butthurt that it was like misnamed, but I'm like, if this is a show that you know, there's nothing wrong with, like, there's not necessarily anything wrong with doing a show that is kind of like a spin-off or an offshoot or something that really you're not going to enjoy all that much unless you've seen this other series. Yeah. But then name it aptly so, right? Because Tales of the Jedi makes it sound like, oh, if you've seen the movies and you're aware of Jedi, then this will be a fun little adventure for you. Right. Whereas if in reality it's like, hey, 50% of this is predicated on the fact that you're familiar with this character that we've now brought into live action with Mandalorian, and we're planning on giving her her own series, but unless you've actually, like, the majority of the audience, right? So I would say in order of things that people have seen with Star Wars, the most viewed thing for sure are the 9 films, right? Like, that's the biggest net.
Yep.
From there, the next smallest one will be these more recent live action, like Mandalorian's got a massive following, right? If you've only seen the movies and you're an adult, you're not really interested in animation, and you're looking to, you know, maybe go one step deeper or expand your universe a little bit, then something like Mandalorian, or maybe Obi-Wan because it was a character that you were already familiar with from the movies. But then the smallest net of all of them, and it's still a massive audience, like still millions, well, maybe not millions, but like close to millions of people have seen the Clone Wars series for sure.
Yeah,
but it is, and this
definitely
those 3
draws
tiers
on those people because it's in the exact same animation style.
Exactly. So, but it's
again,
it's just
watched
like
that if you're watching this.
Yeah. So it's just, I just wish it had been. I wish it had been advertised more clearly that that's what this was.
It made me wonder that maybe that it's named the way it is because in the future we might get another 6 episodes that's divided between 2 other characters.
I hope so.
You know, like, because then it is like, the premise, essentially you're starting a new series that's aptly named.
The premise is great.
You can open the door a little wider to throw that wider net for the future of that series. The
premise is great, but 50% of this is like, oh, this is a character that Star Wars is obviously going all in on now, right? With her appearances in the live action shows
awesome.
and stuff.
Why wouldn't they?
Like they're trying to eliminate any nicheness of her character and trying to make her
mainstream,
a character that everybody knows. But it's like when that's 50% of your show, it was just kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
Like,
the more you talk about, it sounds like Ahsoka's half of this show is the part you have the most issue with.
It is. Oh, absolutely.
And it just makes me go back to, you need to finish the Clone Wars TV show before
absolutely.
Like, because I think you need to watch the Clone Wars show and then rewatch this and see if your feelings on what you're watching in terms of her story change. Getting back on track to this first episode, it is a little like, it's a slower kind of not as interesting storyline.
Exactly.
I'll agree with you there.
I think once I see that other Ahsoka stuff, that will make me appreciate the second two Ahsoka stories more.
Yeah.
But nothing is going to make me, like I said, you could have made this about a character that I already know and love. Could be like, oh, this is how Obi-Wan, when he was 3, discovered he, and I'm just like, I don't care. I just don't care.
So, like, I think the biggest takeaway from this episode, I feel, was the moment before the tiger shows up, when her mom is killing the deer and Ahsoka's looking away, and she's like, no, you need to look. This is the cycle of life and death. They come, they're hand in hand. You need to, don't look away from this. It's important that you learn to accept it. They have a Lion King
moment.
So so it was, and it kind of really speaks to the actual character of Ahsoka and her kind of overall arc, being the master or being the apprentice of the person who slaughters everybody, eventually finding out that it was her master. And so, like, learning to accept these hard things is kind of part of who her character is. So that was the pivotal moment in this episode for her, I think, and the big takeaway. The rest of it was kind of like fluff and not. Yeah, I could have done without this episode overall.
Mm-hmm. Good. I'm glad.
But
it is the weakest. It is the weakest of the. Like I was committed to watching them, but had I gone into this show with the attitude that, like, okay, I'll check out the first episode and then we'll see. If that had been my attitude, I don't think I would have watched the rest, because I would have been like, oh, this is not what I'm looking for.
It's kind of like the Clone Wars animated movie. You can skip it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to change anything.
So then we have a 3 episode gap, which is weird that they do one Ahsoka episode and then 3 Dooku. So by the end of like episode 4, I was like, so is this just like a Dooku show? And which just confused me even more about what the hell was that first episode? Like, why?
Yeah.
But then episode 5, Practice Makes Perfect. I enjoyed this episode because of, and again, not so much from like, I'm like, okay, like I don't know much about Ahsoka. I'm not all that invested. But we got a lot of Anakin in this, right? And so it was fascinating for me.
There are a few really cool Easter eggs in there too, but
it was fascinating for me to see Anakin's temperament as, again, having not really watched the Clone Wars, I haven't seen Anakin really as a master.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that was interesting. It was fun. The fact that it's a very simple concept, but I think there's this like heavy kind of overarching thing where, prior to the end of Clone Wars and when we started getting more stuff that happens in the years following, more animated stuff and more shows like Rebels and Resistance and stuff like that. I don't think, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding was that for years, Ahsoka's fate in terms of Order 66 were kind of left a little ambiguous. And so the fact that now obviously we know that she survived 616 or 616 Order 66. What is 616?
The Marvel universe.
Yeah, it is. Now that we know that she survived Order 66, I think that this is essentially an episode where she's doing these training drills, and she's learning how to survive Order 66. She's
essentially,
how to survive a firing squad of
Anakin was like
clone troopers.
Anakin knows droids are predictable and real life isn't, and that's why he feels that test was flawed, and gives her this new test.
Yeah. And so that was fun,
and become more proficient and capable in keeping herself alive. So this is really cool. And again, this episode is more meaningful when you've watched all of Clone Wars.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
So, yeah, we don't find out here that Ahsoka survived Order 66. The Clone Wars TV show was made prior to Disney's acquisition of Lucasfilm. But after its acquisition of Lucasfilm, the show was done, but then they brought Dave Filoni in to do one more season, one final chapter, and that final season,
right?
Pardon?
Like there was quite a gap, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. So prior to this final season, all we knew was that Ahsoka had left the Order. We don't really see much more of her, if any.
Right.
After she leaves the Order in the TV show.
What is she up to? Yeah.
Yeah. So the final season of Clone Wars pretty much exclusively focuses on Ahsoka as the main character. Up the weeks leading up to and during Order 66. So in this episode, in Tales of the Jedi, where Rex is standing behind Ahsoka, and they have that quick little back and forth right at the very end of the episode. That takes place in between two different scenes in one of the last episodes. I think it's the last episode of the Clone Wars.
See, so that would have made a huge difference for me. Sure.
It makes a really cool scene. Yeah. So yeah, and then a couple other cool things. When she's doing the droid test, there's a master and a Padawan there. That's Kanan Jarrus, the Jedi from Rebels, who escapes Order 66 as a Padawan. Right. We see a couple of other masters sitting beside Obi-Wan and Anakin. One of them's Plo Koon. He found Ahsoka Tano and discovered she was Force sensitive, and so some really cool little Easter eggs also in this. But this episode was awesome. I really like this episode.
So then moving on to the third and final episode of Ahsoka, I also really enjoyed this one, but again, not because of Ahsoka. I mean, we get Senator Organa.
Yep.
We get a shot. We get a recreation of Padme's funeral procession.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like there's something to me. What I really want explored more, and it's something that I'm looking forward to immensely in the final season of Clone Wars, is there's one of the most thrilling parts of Revenge of the Sith, outside of like the battles and stuff that happens, is just the oh shit moment that is Order 66.
Yeah.
Like it is just this like
heartbreaking chaos.
Instantly, the entire galaxy is flipped on its head. Everything that we knew to be true is not, and it's just crazy. And so anytime something is set behind the scenes, like it was, and people are going to crucify me for this, the beginning of Jedi Fallen Order, the video game, that's my favorite part, is when it's like we're seeing Order 66 stuff happening.
Yeah.
And so the fact that this is taking place during, like, literally, I don't know, the next day or the day after, within the first 48 hours of Order 66, that again is something that for me is one of the eras that I'm most fascinated in. And so that and again the familiar faces, and seeing Organa interact with these clone troopers who are now clone troopers on their way to being stormtroopers. Like it's almost, clone troopers have gone from being our friends to kind of being like Nazi soldiers in the streets kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like after curfew and whatever.
Yeah.
That was, watching Organa navigate that conversation with them and all of that. That was fun and exciting for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man, this is, I've been talking about this a little bit in the last couple episodes we've done over different, both the news and Andor, but this is one of those scenes that I was talking to you about. Like, we had Padme's funeral procession in Revenge of the Sith, and we had a shot of her casket going by, and a shot of Bail Organa there, and this is, if the camera had flipped, we would have gotten the shot we see in this episode of Ahsoka's there too. Yeah. It's just a really cool way to kind of overlap these two different storylines, or these two different forms of media.
Yeah.
Just really good storytelling. I really liked it.
Cool.
Yeah. So she ends up going into hiding like most Jedi.
Yep.
She ends up getting found out because, like most Jedi, she's got to save the day. She's technically not a Jedi, but she's a Jedi.
Yep.
And then, she gets called out. The two things I found interesting here: we get a kind of a dichotomy of opinions on the Empire in this episode. This younger individual thinks the Empire is great. This older individual and some of the other people in this village think the Empire is horrible. So we kind of got this kind of right around the time of Andor situation of some people like it, some people think they're the worst. It's kind of an interesting points of view on the Empire here.
Yeah.
Anyway, she gets sold out, and we get a Inquisitor who we've never seen before in any other form of media, which was interesting.
Other than Obi-Wan.
No, we've seen Inquisitors,
not this one.
The Inquisitors are numbered.
Yes.
Usually with, like, you have the first brother or sister.
Third
I don't know
thing.
each and individual one, but they're essentially numbered: first, second, third, fourth.
Well, and this one is short-lived.
Yeah, so we don't know which brother this one is. We don't know. We've never seen them before.
Pretty easily.
It's unclear how far along after Order 66 this is.
Yeah.
It's got to be relatively shortly after, I would think. But yeah, he looks cool. He sounds cool. He's pretty menacing. And
it's something that's always made me wonder. Sorry? Like, it's something that's always made me wonder how far. Like, this is why I want a Palpatine series or something, because like there was, as soon as Order 66 happens, there's like so many dominoes that are already in place that we weren't even aware of, right? Like, this is very shortly after Order 66, because, you know, like, what are the events? Order 66 happens. Padme goes to Mustafar. Then she's rescued from Mustafar, and the twins are born, and then she dies. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, funerals happen pretty quick after that. So, like, it's like I said, it's very shortly after,
and definitely right after.
And we have the Inquisitors. Like,
I think the Inquisitor part must be at least minimum 5 years after 66.
In this episode?
Yeah.
I thought it seemed it was all the same night.
What? No, like when she leaves Naboo, there's a definite time jump.
You think so?
Oh yeah, because she's not on Naboo. She's on some other planet.
I thought she was on Naboo still.
No, she took off with Rex in the Y-Wing.
Right.
And there's a definite, and Rex you end up finding out Rex is on a different planet with some other clones and rebels. So they parted ways.
Yeah.
And and she's definitely been there a while to build up some trust and some relationships and a home or whatever. So I would say there's at least a 5-year jump there.
Well, so what I'm just wondering here then is, do we have a timeline where, maybe this is something that's explained in the Bad Batch, but when do the clone trooper uniforms get discontinued for the stormtrooper uniforms?
Yeah, they dive into that in Bad Batch. They start to change within the first 4 or 5. I would say,
because there's still clone trooper uniforms in this scene.
Yeah, but no, there's no, after she leaves Naboo, after the Naboo funeral scenes, there's no clone troopers at all. There's no clone troopers or stormtroopers. All we see from the Empire after that scene is an Inquisitor.
Oh, right. Okay. You're right. I thought you were saying that, like, the conversation between her and Bail is a different. I'm like,
after that night, there's a time jump.
Right. Okay. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
Cool.
But anyway, so she fights an Inquisitor and kicks his sorry behind so swiftly. It's like, what I wrote it down. Hang on. The Inquisitor, she beats the Inquisitor with ease. He only gets 3 swings, and she beats him with 1.
Yeah.
She dodges 3 swings, or she dodges 2, catches the 3rd, and ends him.
He's frightening looking though.
So awesome.
He's got the the iconic Inquisitor lightsaber hilt, but it's a double-bladed saber, and
it spins if he wants it to, and
yeah, it's badass. Which is like, so the Inquisitors for me, and this is like, we don't have time to get into this, but I'm gonna try anyways. They fall in this like weird gray area where, like, you know, lightsabers at this point, like, once the Empire takes over, lightsabers, obviously, except for whoever Sidious appoints to be able to carry a lightsaber, like, that's a prohibited item, right? It's
pretty much Jedi. Just Vader and the Inquisitors and himself.
Yeah. So, but then, like, Inquisitors are like because of the rule of 2, and because Sidious wouldn't stand for there to be other Sith other than, like, he even considers Vader disposable, right? He wouldn't stand to have Vader try to take over and become the new master. It's like they're dark side users who carry lightsabers, but they're not Sith.
That's exactly what they are. Yeah,
they're Inquisitors. But what is what is the difference if you're a red wielding dark side Force user?
Well, so the big difference would be intention, right? So the Palpatine intentionally trains Vader as a Sith. And Vader intentionally looks to his master for training, and then eventually to overthrow him. But yeah, there's always a weird kind of dichotomy there with the Sith, because it's easy for the apprentice to train somebody in secret and then have help defeating the master. So these Inquisitors are known to Sidious. He actually kind of created them and then gifted them to Vader, saying, like, use these people to help you hunt down the rest of the Jedi.
Right. Because a lot of them are essentially like fallen Jedis.
There's no intention there to train them in the Sith ways.
Right.
They're just a tool. I'm going to train you enough in the dark arts of the Force so that you can hunt down Jedi. You're a tool.
They're not going to be whipping out Force lightning and stuff like that.
Vader's got no respect for them.
Even Vader
he has no intention of training them. He looks down on them.
Yeah.
They're all, and here, like, they are Force users. All of them are, like, Force users in some way. Some of them are former Jedi that
don't kill me, I'll serve you.
That for whatever reason looked down on the Order in the last few years of the Force, seeing them as evil.
Yeah. That's Palpatine's manipulation, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, even Vader can't use, through no fault of his own, basically because of his bodily injuries, but even Vader can't use Force lightning.
Yeah. Well, and in canon, and this is one of the gripes a lot of people who know the Star Wars lore really well, one of the gripes they have about the Disney trilogy is when what's her name, the main character,
Rey,
who I could care less, Rey, when Rey uses Force lightning, blows up the ship that Chewbacca is supposedly in, there's anybody who has dove into the lore enough, the official canon, like Disney's canon, that's she can't use that. She can't use Force lightning. Force lightning can only be learned if it's been used on you. That's one of the that's one of the caveats in the lore. So when she whips it out and people are like, but she's Palpatine's granddaughter. It's like, no. There's more to being able to use the Force than genealogy, right? Like, you have to actually train to use the Force lightning. But not only do you have to train, it has to be used on you if you're going to be able to use it. You have to know the pain so intently so that you can inflict it on someone yourself.
Right. And the real reason Vader couldn't use it was because, he couldn't, like, his extremities.
His cybernetics prevented him.
Yeah. His limbs aren't connected to the Force because they're not real limbs.
Yeah. Well, that and it'd fry out his own systems.
Yeah.
So,
cool. So, moving on to Dooku's story here.
Yeah. All right.
I loved this.
His story in this was epic.
I would have loved for this to have just been the Dooku series. And honestly, like, something that I thought was maybe a missed opportunity, and don't confirm or deny, but maybe this is something that this is an itch that gets scratched somewhere along in the Clone Wars series. But I thought that there was an opportunity, if you have a series where you're telling the path of Ahsoka and you're telling the path of Count Dooku, I mean, there is sort of an interesting connection between these two characters in that they're part of the same master-apprentice lineage, right?
Yeah.
So, like, Yoda trains Dooku.
Yep.
Dooku trains Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon trains Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan trains Anakin, and Anakin trains Ahsoka. So they're kind of like, in a weird way, they're kind of like Jedi family in that sense.
And we see a bit of that throughout his three stories here.
Yeah. And so I would have really liked, because he talks about, like, wanting to meet Obi-Wan and stuff like that. And I would have gotten a kick, I think, out of seeing these two characters' paths cross at some point, and there being some kind of dialogue which again, like I said, is amply possible in the Clone Wars, because during the Clone Wars era of Star Wars, Dooku is kind of, Sidious has not revealed himself yet, really. He's kind of still pulling strings from the shadows very intentionally. Yes. You have General Grievous, but he's more the leader of the droids, and he is in many ways a puppet of Dooku's. He's
essentially Lord. The Inquisitors during the Clone Wars era.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Dooku is the Sith Lord. He is the main antagonist of the Clone Wars era. And so it's still certainly possible that interaction will happen, and I hope it does. I won't be, I'm not going to scream from the mountaintops with anger if it doesn't. But that was something that I was kind of like, oh yeah, like there is a connection here, which really is something I've been thinking about. And it's funny because it makes Obi-Wan like sort of this like, Obi-Wan is like the center point for a lot of Jedi apprentices, right? Because under Obi-Wan you have Anakin, and under Anakin you have Ahsoka. Mm-hmm. But also under Obi-Wan you have Luke.
Yep.
And under Luke you have Rey, you have Leia, you have Ben Solo, and now you also have Grogu. So there's kind of like this, there's this really interesting, like, and it all kind of gets traced back to Obi-Wan. Because the only other person that we really know, like Yoda trained younglings, but Yoda's other, like, well-known apprentice is Mace Windu. And then you look at Mace Windu's line of apprentices, and it's just like, I've never heard of any of these people.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of a family tree that goes nowhere. But no, I found it. I just think it's fascinating that so much of it is traced back to Obi-Wan, making Obi-Wan one of the badassest of all the Star Wars characters.
He's always been one of my favorite characters in Star Wars.
He's so good, man.
Yeah,
he's so, especially like, Alec Guinness is fantastic. Of course he is, but like
Ian McGregor in the
one thing you can't
prequels.
Oh. Yeah, one thing you can't shit talk about the prequels is Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah,
he's just so good.
Yeah, he did for Obi-Wan what everyone was hoping would be for the Solo Star Wars story. It never happened.
Can I make a gripe? Can I make an Obi-Wan related gripe about the Clone Wars, just because we've been talking so much about the Clone Wars, and this show kind of feels like an extension of the Clone Wars?
Or the TV show?
The show.
Yeah.
I was watching an episode. I don't know what episode it is, but there's literally an episode where Grievous shows up, jumps down, or pops up, or does whatever behind Obi-Wan. And Grievous looks at Obi-Wan and says, "Hello there." And I'm like, what the... What the, like...
A little tit for tat.
But it's just so stupid, because at this point, like, Obi-Wan saying it to Grievous doesn't happen until Revenge of the Sith. And so it was just like... And so what are we... And I don't know that does it happen in episode 1 or episode 2? So I'm like, are we trying to canonize the fact that Obi-Wan, the reason Obi-Wan says hello there is because he stole it from Grievous? Bullshit.
Why not?
That made me a little angry. Anyway. But anyways, that's my... So Dooku.
Get this cool... Oh, man. The cool thing about... Like, he's a full-fledged Jedi here. He's got Qui-Gon as an apprentice. And... He's got these like flashes of the dark side budding up in him.
Yeah, he's not content with the Jedi way.
Well, the cool thing about the Qui-Gon episodes here is in this series is not only did they show that Qui-Gon is already starting to slip, but it shows that the Jedi Order
Dooku
has been slipping long before he did.
Dooku. Qui-Gon's not slipping. Dooku is.
Qui-Gon, not Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon's solid. We see that Qui-Gon's always been solid.
He's always been solid, but Qui-Gon's always, and you do see it in this too, Qui-Gon's been solid in, like, Qui-Gon was always sort of the the stubborn, slightly rebellious, like still has the light side of the Force. There's no like dark side inkling in him, but like it's pretty much well known within the Jedi Order that if we send Qui-Gon off to do something and we give him very specific instructions about how this is supposed to be done, he's not following our instructions. Yeah, he's got his own way that this is going to
a little bit, but also the whole idea that, and he talks to this to a couple times. I think he mentions it in, I don't know. Does he mention it in one of these episodes? I'm not sure. But in episode 1, he mentions it to Anakin, be mindful of the living Force. He's a Jedi. He follows the Jedi Order and the Jedi Code and the Jedi rules to a point when to a point, and he's willing to bend those if he feels like the living Force is telling him otherwise.
Right. Another thing he says it in episode 1. One of the first lines he says in episode 1 to Obi-Wan, which again is, I think, this kind of like, yes, these are the rules, but also there's exceptions to these rules, is when Obi-Wan's like, he's being a worrywart or something, and Qui-Gon tries to calm him down or whatever, and Obi-Wan says, Master Yoda says to be mindful of the future. And Qui-Gon says something to the effect of, yes, but not at the expense of the moment.
Yeah.
Right. So like, yes, we'll worry about things to come, but there is a situation right in front of us.
You're here and now. Be present.
You're here and now. And the consequences are ignorable if they need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which doesn't feel like that would not be advice that, say, Mace Windu would give. Right.
Yeah.
Mace Windu would be much more like.
We see Dooku kind of doing some of this himself. He takes it too far, especially in this episode, choking the counselor or whatever. But like he's that's kind of, I think Qui-Gon kind of gleaned that from his teachings, gleaned from his master, from Dooku.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can't help but have it, Yeah. Like that's always going to be the case.
Yeah. So I liked this episode. I liked all of Dooku's episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We get, the chancellor kind of makes this comment. You serve the Republic. And he says, no, we serve the people of the Republic.
Yeah. Yeah. Which was a great line.
Yeah. You mentioned the thinking in the moment. We get that Qui-Gon says to Obi-Wan, and we get a similar line here. He said, wrote it down. He says, Dooku kind of praises him for his quick thinking, and he said, I was just thinking in the moment, and Dooku's like, well, you're a wiser man than I am.
Yeah. 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 Which is something similar that Qui-Gon says to, when Qui-Gon's dying, he says to Obi-Wan, he's like, you're already a far greater Jedi than I could ever hope to be.
Yeah. Some nice similarities without them being member berries. This thing that we've done, or said, kind of like you were talking about with the hello there.
Hello there.
Right, like that would be like a member berry. We're directly stealing a line or a scene and carbon copying it, but flipping it or whatever.
Yeah.
This is a callback without it being a remember this moment.
Yeah. So then we have their second episode, which is, I think, an episode.
Dooku and Mace Windu doing something together.
Yeah. And it gives us a little bit more of like, I was like, ooh. So you have Dooku, who's already like, I don't know when, because it's still earlier on this episode. Right, we get a bit of a time jump between this one and the next one. I feel.
Yeah,
like.
This is I would associate this one being a time jump somewhere halfway between the three episodes we get. So Qui-Gon's probably his own master. Obi-Wan's probably a youngling under his tutelage. Like,
and we don't fully know in this episode where 100% where Dooku's allegiance lie yet. if
I would say he's still
Sidious's apprentice,
in the interest of serving the Republic and serving the Jedi, but his mentality is definitely slipping,
right?
More,
because I find it really interesting that Mace Windu got the promotion to the council over Dooku, for obvious reasons, like the council doesn't approve of your antics and your aggressive methods. But I was like, oh, this is interesting. Did Dooku want to get on the council as part of like an infiltration tactic, or at this point are his intentions still mostly for the Jedi and he just wanted to be on the council, and getting overlooked, getting passed over for Mace Windu was another kind of nail in the coffin, was another thing that just like stoked his fire. And
is that question about like, is he being coerced by Palpatine?
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, at this point, how much influence does Sidious have over him?
Yeah, I think,
if any.
I get the sense that Palpatine maybe knows about his wanings, but kind of like Palpatine in Episode 2 of the movies. He's got a bug in the ear of Dooku, and he knows kind of Dooku's heart. His thoughts befriended him.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's revealed himself to Dooku.
Right. Because I think
Dooku's still on the side of the Jedi and to serve the Jedi and the Republic. But yeah, this is definitely like a nail in the coffin moment. I feel like he wanted a seat on the council so that he could change it from within, because he is obviously seeing how the Jedi are failing the people of the Republic. And he wants to change that. And because he gets passed over, he I guess he sees that as, well, if they're going to pass me over, then they're not interested in changing.
Right.
So I've got to change it another way.
Yeah. So that's interesting. And then the third episode, this is where, like, this kind of answers my question, actually, because the third episode is where we see, I feel like, the genesis of Dooku really dipping his toes into, okay, I'm ready to switch sides.
Oh yeah, this is the switch episode. Yeah,
yeah. This was my favorite episode of the 6.
Yeah, I liked this episode. I wouldn't say they're issues, but it's retconning Legends. So there's a bit of,
which they're allowed to do.
They're allowed to do. I think they did it well here. A lot of times Disney hasn't done that well, I don't think.
Right.
But I think the big thing,
you're just upset that you haven't seen.
There's the Legends storyline still exists, but they're not canon, which means there's a bit of mourning that happens, because this is the storyline I knew and I loved, and now it's essentially obsolete to the actual story.
See, that makes it almost more interesting for me, just because it's kind of like, if they are legends, if it's like, if we're treating them as rumor has it, this is how it happened, then anytime they change it or they give us the actual canon version, it's kind of like there are some errors in the legend. This is, it's been a game of broken telephone.
These are some pretty drastic changes, though.
Yes,
so like
they are.
Dooku left the Jedi Order to rule his home planet long before he ever fell to the dark side in Legends.
Yeah.
And Yaddle, the female Yoda council master,
who we get to see in full action here, that made me very happy.
Yep, that was pretty cool. She actually dies saving Anakin selflessly in a battle on some other planet.
Well, she didn't die here. She escapes.
Pardon?
She escapes here. She doesn't die.
No, she doesn't.
Episode.
She did.
No, I don't think so.
You need to rewatch this episode, dude.
The door opens again.
Yeah, and she falls into the chamber. The door closes behind her. Dooku walks up and strikes her down.
Yeah, but we've seen people come back from worse.
Oh,
Darth Maul gets cut in half.
She's dead.
Darth Maul gets cut in half.
She's dead. She's gone.
Yeah,
her head is cleaved from her shoulders.
Well, no, but yeah, maybe.
Well, we don't see it. We don't know how she dies, but she's dead. There's no way she survives. There's nobody there to help her. But I kind of like her Legend's death a little bit more because it's a little more selfless. Right. This is pretty careless and thoughtless. Like, you didn't leave a message for somebody that you were following Dooku and you had suspicions. You didn't
put a note on the fridge.
When you found out who he's meeting with, you didn't try to escape and let everybody know that the Sith Lord's on Coruscant.
Right. You decided
there's
to
engage. There's a lot of holes I can poke in her logic.
Yeah.
Overall, though, it's a great film. The Jedi, she's a Jedi in the kind of the peak of their folly. So she's flawed as well. She thinks she's more powerful. I feel like the big thing here for her is she feels like she can sway Dooku back to the light.
Right.
And that's why she's like,
this doesn't need to be this way. We'll sort it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even though I can poke all kinds of holes in it and I like her Legend's sacrificial death better.
Yeah.
This was a good episode, good storyline. It's a good replacement for Legends canon.
Yeah. I mean, this was just my favorite episode, I think, because it has my favorite Star Wars character of all time in it.
Who's that?
Darth Sidious.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You like the bad boys.
He's just like, I mean, even as a kid, you remember back before the prequels came out, like, once the Emperor showed up on scene, it was so cool.
Crap got real.
Oh, yeah. So question for you. On a scale of 0 to 10, where would you rank what I'm hoping is just the first season of Star Wars Tales of the Jedi?
Man, I got to rate it pretty high. I like the short form storytelling. It was very reminiscent, felt very much like the Clone Wars 2D micro series that I really, really love. It worked for me. I like 8.5.
8.5. All right.
Yeah, I loved it.
All right.
That's and where would you put it on that scale?
I give it a 7, which I think is higher than, for what I think it's mislabeled, mismarketed. I think the first episode is garbage, no matter who it's about or how much you care about the character. But the rest of it was, even the Ahsoka episodes, if I wasn't in the episode for Ahsoka, I was into it for other reasons. And then, like I said, all the Dooku stuff was great. And again, I think the first of the Dooku episodes is the weakest Dooku episode. But yeah, it was a show that definitely got better as it went too. Like each episode that followed was kind of like, oh, this is better.
It definitely felt like a slow build up in momentum.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I give it a 7, which I think is higher than you would have expected.
It was higher than I expected. And I'd be interesting to know what you'd give it when you finish watching Clone Wars and go back and watch it again.
That is a question I will answer. I promise.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for listening to this episode. Make sure you check out our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all listed below, our Patreon page, which is a wicked way to support the show and get some fun little things for yourself, including Carl's first musical single. It's I'm
going to be a pop star, baby.
It's hot stuff. It's a great album cover. Check out our merch page. We got merch because merch is epic.
With some stocking stuffers.
Stockings, all kinds of fun stuff. So go check that out. And make sure you leave a review wherever you've listened to this episode and check out our other episodes. Subscribe to us. Follow us. because there's lots of good stuff coming, and you're not going to want to miss it. And hopefully that includes season 2 of this show, and hopefully season 2 is just like bananas.
I would look forward to a second one.
Yeah. Send us off with something witty, Carl.
Wow. Okay. I'll leave you with a quote to always remember and keep in mind, will the Jedi truly keep peace if they take everything that the Senate says as law?
Okay.
Will they? Will they?
I don't know. I wasn't prepared for a quiz.
I mean, the answer is no, but
I haven't studied.